Greetings, brothers and sisters. How you doing out there? As I try and slightly adjust this the light for the camera, I keep setting it, but it keeps going back. So how you doing? I hope you can see me and everything. I've got to come closer. I don't know, for some reason the settings on the phone they're going crazy right now. They're moving mad. So I'm having to sort of like set it up and adjust it. But I think that's a bit better now. You know, I'm trying to make it brighter so you can see it. You know, so you can see me properly and so on. You know, hope you're doing well out there. Hope everything is fine. Hope you're enjoying the wonderful sunshine here in the UK. I know some of you are probably watching from overseas, but over in the UK we've had some glorious weather. You know, the weather's been excellent in the UK the last couple of weeks really, and I think it's one of the best starts to a summer we've had for a very long time. You know, I mean, for those of you watching us for the first time, Crispy and Motep, please, you know, subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. You know, for those of you regulars, you know what to do. You know, like the videos. We want all of you to like the videos, because if you like the videos, it helps with the algorithms. It helps YouTube to push our videos out there. Helps the channel to grow. Don't forget to click on the notification. So if you click on the bell and so on, you know, it helps the channel to grow. And you can also get your notifications when we're uploading the video or when we eventually go live, which won't be for now because we're waiting to get 1,000 subscribers before we go live. But, you know, I'm just waiting you so that when we get there, you know what to do. Share them. Please leave your comments down below. Don't be scared to leave your comments, you know, because I'm looking for your comments and I'm not seeing them. So leave your comments down below. Tell us what you think, you feel about the videos. If you want to send a shout out to someone, you can do so via the comment section down below the video. And don't forget to subscribe, like and share videos. We're here to talk about Bunny Wailer. Jah B, some call him. The Mystic Man. The Black Heart Man. He died just over a year ago. He died last year, March. The 2nd of March to be precise, of 2021. He died at the age of 73 via a stroke. He had 2 strokes, Bunny Wailer. He had a stroke in 2018, and then he had another stroke again, which we helped to sort of like help to kind of like, how can I say now, affect his speech, and he wasn't able to sing as much. And then he had another stroke in 2020. Yeah. So and then he had another stroke in 2021, and the stroke in 2021 was the one that killed him. So we had I've already had 2 strokes. I've also already had 3 strokes, but I'm led to believe he had 3 strokes. And the final stroke, the complication of the second stroke in 2020 is what killed him. Because in 2021, the stroke it was being looked after in the Kingston Hospital there, and in the stroke the previous year in 2020, the complication of that was what killed him in 2021. And so there you have it. Now, Jah B was a Mystic Man, born on the 10th of April 1947 in Kingston. I've seen some places have it down as he's born in St Anne's, but he was born in Kingston and he grew up in St Anne's, and that's where he met the likes of Bob Marley, because Bob Marley's mother was going out with Bunny Wailer's mother, and their father, they had children together. So you can say that Bunny Wailer and Bob Marley were like relatives, if you like. They're like our brothers, if you like. You know, and then of course they met Peter Tosh later on in their journey. And when they got to Kingston, when they got to Kingston in the late 1950s, and then they met the likes of Joe Higgs, who taught them vocal training, who taught them music theory, because Joe Higgs was a great choir master. He taught a lot of the young musicians at that time how to sing and how to harmonize. If some singers weren't good at actually leading a group, he would teach them how to become backing singers, or backup singers as they were called sometimes in those days in Jamaica. Backup singers. A lot of other people have it down as backing singers, so it's the same thing really. And he also met the likes of Beverly Kelso, Cherry Smith and Junior Breathrate, which became other members of the Wailers. You know, some people think that it was just Peter, Bunny and Bob, but it wasn't Peter, Bunny and Bob. Eventually it was Peter, Bunny and Bob after those other people like Beverly Kelso, Junior Breathrate and Cherry Smith left the group, because accordingly Bob Marley thought that Cherry Smith wasn't good enough for the group. He didn't like her harmonies, and he didn't like her singing and her timing. So Bob Marley never wanted her in the group. He thought that she was holding the group back. But Beverly Kelso, funny enough, she's still alive, but she's now living in America. She's the only living member of the Wailers. Because obviously Bob Marley's gone, Peter Tosh is gone, now Bunny Wailer's gone. Junior Braithwaite went about 20 years ago. He passed away in Miami in America. And I believe Cherry Smith passed away as well. So it's only really Beverly Kelso who's still alive, and she's now living in America. You know, Joe Higgs passed away many years ago, but Joe Higgs wasn't part of the Wailers. He was just a teacher. They called him the choir master, teaching the Wailers harmonies. And so, now, of course, Lee Perry, one of the biggest influences who taught them how to write songs, was actually Lee Perry who taught the Wailers and put Rastafarian concepts and the concepts of the poor, the ghetto livers and the poor livers in Jamaica and the poor livers in various parts of the African diaspora and in the motherland itself. He taught the Wailers to sing and to write lyrics around the poor classes of black people around the world, both in the diaspora and in the motherland, into their music. And that's one of the reasons why Bob Marley really revered Lee Perry. He revered Lee Perry as a genius before the rest got hold of it, because now the rest have Lee Perry down as a genius producer, as a genius songwriter, and as a genius, master of all in music. But really, Bob Marley was the first one to see the geniusism in Lee Perry. And before Bob Marley, maybe you could say Coxsone Dodd, because Coxsone Dodd loved Lee Perry. And that's why Coxsone Dodd got Lee Perry to Studio One to become a talent scout for Studio One in the early days. And of course, to teach some of the singers how to sing and so on. And even though Lee Perry wasn't a great singer himself, all the other dynamics of music, like producing, writing, and so on, he was very good at that. And of course, one of the biggest geniuses to come out of Jamaica. Of course, And so there you have it, So Bunny Wailer was a great man. Bunny Wailer was a legend, an icon. In the early days, the Wailers were really inspired by the Impressions. Because, that's in the early days. The Impressions had three pieces. They had Curtis Smith or Jerry Butler. And so on, and then so the Wailers had Peter, Bunny, and Bob, and then when they broke away from Cherry Smith, Junior Braithwaite, and Beverly Kelso, they became a trio. And Bob Marley went to America in the mid-1960s because his mother Cedella was living out there. And Bob Marley broke away temporarily from the Wailers, went to America, came back with a guitar, and when he came back with a guitar, he said to the Wailers, he said to Peter and Bunny that, you know what, guys, look, we have to do this thing. We have to do this thing on our own, because we can't keep staying at Studio One, because Studio One was stifling the Wailers. They can write their own songs. They're becoming more revolutionary now. This is like in the height of the civil rights movement in America. And there's a lot of songwriting going on, both in Jamaica and both in the West, in America, in Europe. So the Wailers wanted a piece of that. And they had the likes of Bob Dylan, the Beatles, and so many others around that time. Cat Stevens writing their own songs. Bob Dylan writing their own revolutionary songs. So Bob Marley said, you know what, guys, we're gonna follow suit. And that's where the Wailers became their own men and broke away from Coxsone Dodd Studio One, set their own label up, the Wailer and Solemn label, in around 1967, and started singing songs for their own selves, and also writing songs for other people like the likes of Johnny Nash, who became very close to the Wailers at the tail end of the 1960s. And of course, Bunny Wailer was of course instrumental in that. And then when the likes of Chris Blackwell came in, and some say Chris Blackwell brought Bob Marley away from Peter and Buddy. Some say that Bob Marley wanted to do his own thing, wanted to go his own way, because the likes of Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer didn't like touring. And so he said this. Some writers and commentators of reggae music would say that it was actually Bob Marley's idea to come away from reggae. I don't think that was the case, because Bob Marley always wanted to be with Peter and Bunny. He always wanted to be with those two. But I believe it was Chris Blackwell who had a say in pulling Bob Marley away from the other two guys, Buddy and Peter, and taking Bob on his own and making Bob become more or less like a solo act, like a reggae rock act. And then he got the I-Threes to actually back him up. The I-Threes were actually originally brought together by Bob Marley. It was actually Big Youth. I think I see this in the documentary I did to Big Youth a few weeks ago. There was actually Big Youth who actually got the I-Threes to start singing together for the first time on their own, you see. And those beautiful female harmonies. I remember the great Ray Charles from America, when he was singing in the 60s, he got a lot of female vocal backing singers to back him up, because he said that the female vocalists, they sound so beautiful. the way they come in harmony with each other, it's nothing like what a man can do. So Bob Marley, I think, maybe got the idea from Ray Charles. But Marley's always tapping into things and always thinking. But if it wasn't Ray Charles who inspired him to do that, he was inspired divinely by something or someone to, you know, get his wife, Rita Marley, Judy Marriott, and Marcia Griffiths, 3 queens of reggae, to come along and to back him up. And they did so to telling effect, you see. And you can see that's when Bob Marley really went commercial, when the I3s were backing him up. But Bunny Wailer was always there. And Bunny Wailer, when the likes of Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer himself broke away from Bob, or Bob broke away from them, when Peter Tosh went away and did his own thing, BMI soon signed him up. And of course, Bunny Wailer set up his Solomonic label. In fact, all 3 men had their own labels when they left each other. Bob Marley had Tuff Gong. Wedding Solomon was still there, but Wedding Solomon was now slightly extinct because Bob Marley went commercial with Tuff Gong and Island Records. Peter Tosh went solo with Iplo Dim, the Implo Dim label, and that was Peter Tosh's label. Then of course Bunny Wailer had Solomonic, which he set up in 72. So I set that label up the year before the Wailers, the original Wailers of Peter, Bunny and Bob broke away, because it broke away in 1973, and he had the Solomonic label from 1972. I've also seen in some quarters that it was actually 1969 that the Solomonic label was set up. I'm not sure. I've seen 69, I've seen 71, I've seen 72, but I've seen 72 more than I've seen 69 and more than I've seen 71. So I'm inclined to go with 1972, you see. It's all up in the air. But anyway, Bunny Wailer set that label up, you know, the Solomonic label with the Star of David in the middle, like this. You know, we could have also called it an Illuminati sign. And it's got like 2 eyes coming out. I was seeing it up there and there. And then that was his label. And of course, he sang so many songs when he left there. Some say that he should have sung more songs because Bob Marley and Peter Tosh sung more songs solo than he did when they 3 of them broke up. But he put out, even though his quality wasn't as prolific as the other 2, it was sharp, and it was, you could maybe call it quality over quantity. You know, his biggest song from that time was really Dreamland. He done 2 versions of Dreamland. He did a version of Dreamland for Lee Perry when the group was with Lee Perry in the early 70s. And he did another version when he went on his own, and he did the great, critically acclaimed Black Heart Man album in 1975, which was released on Island Records. But of course, the Jamaican subsidiary was released in his own label, Solomonic. You know, and then there you see it at the end, and all those songs were more or less written by Bunny Wailer. Bunny Wailer said that when he was a young child, he got the inspiration to write the Black Heart Man album and write the song Black Heart Man, which is of course the title of the actual album itself. As a child, he said that a lot of children run away from this man. He looked very wicked and dreadful and fearsome. He was actually the Rasta man, the original Rasta man, the man with the beard, the man with the bushy hair, the locks. And they said all the children were running away from this man. Who's this man? He's like a Juju man. He's like an opium man. But it was a Rasta man. At that time, Rasta was really new. It was a new concept to Jamaica. This was in the 1950s, 40s, 50s. You see, and so the Rastafarianism wasn't really filtered into Jamaican society and the Jamaican culture at that time. It was new. It was a new concept. It wasn't really until the 60s and 70s that the Rasta concept and Rasta themes were becoming more popular and more familiar in Jamaica, with the rise of Bob Marley, with the rise of roots reggae music, the likes of Mortimer Plano who ran around spreading it, who carried on from Leonard Percival Howell before him, and so on. And then, of course, the likes of Plano taught the likes of the Wailers, including Bunny Wailer, of course, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and many other roots artists around at that time, Burning Spear, you know, Joseph L. Culture. All of those guys were inspired by Plano. Plano taught them, you see. And even before Plano, you had the likes of Count Ozzy, the Nyabingi drummer. And sometimes they go up in Warwick Hills and drum and do Nyabingi chant, Nyabingi drumming. And a lot of the Rastas, you know, a lot of the Rastas outside of the music, but the Rastas in the music, on the budding Rastas, the likes of Bob will go there, you know, smoke a chalice, reason, read the Bible. All of them will go, most of the musicians at that time would go up into Warwick Hills and follow Count Ozzy and listen to Count Ozzy. And of course, you had the likes of Mortimer Plano there as well, and other Rasta leaders and elders were there, and they would all be jamming and teaching one another about the movement and about who Selassie is and about various Rasta themes and concepts and so on. And there's footage of it. If you go on Google, you see footage of some of these things I'm talking about. And even though the footage might be a bit distorted because it's old, it's like some of it's like 50, 60 years old and so on. And of course, modern day technology now, it's not in HD, so you have to kind of like, you know, bear it that, you know, grin and bear it that the quality of the video is distorted, but at least there's something there to go on as a record and as a portfolio. And that's where Bunny Wailer and the Wailers got their inspiration from, and he went on to write so many songs, you know, Battering Down Sentence, Bide Up, and that great Cracks album, The Black Heart Man, you know, Reincarnated Souls. The Wailers did that, and then Bunny Wailer when he broke away from the Wailers, he did it for the album, The Black Heart Man. And then in 1981, he did a wonderful album, tribute to the Wailers. And he sings back over some of the classic songs that he was a part of when he was a Peter and Bob as the Wailers, you know, like Dancing Shoes and songs like that, you know, and some of the other songs that he led on, like I Stand Predominant. That was a song that Bunny Wailer sung more or less lead on. I must say this also, that Bob Marley went to America to visit his mother in 1965, and some people think that Bob Marley was still singing on those songs like Let Him Go, which was done at Studio One in 1966. Bob Marley was on that track. It's actually Bunny Wailer and Peter Tosh on that track. So you got the two Wailers on that track, you know. Then you got people harmonizing. I'm not sure if that was Beverly Kelso. Doesn't sound like it. It could have been Junior Breathwaite who was singing harmony in one of those songs. But Bunny Wailer was the lead singer on Let Him Go, you know, at Studio One in 1966. You see, and the other songs around at that time. You know, Rock Street Rock, that's another one from Bunny Wailer, where he leads with his beautiful, soulful, Curtis Mayfield tinged falsetto. It was inspired by the likes of Sam Cooke and the Highway QCs in the 1950s. Gospel groups like the Highway QCs and the Soul Stirrers. Well, Soul Stirrers were the gospel, but Sam Cooke, being initially a gospel singer, made a transformation from gospel singing into secular music. And he carried on he left the gospel, went into the soul and the blues. Nonetheless, the Wailers and many Jamaican artists, and even fellow soul artists and American artists all over the world in the UK and so on, were inspired by soul and were inspired by Sam Cooke, one of the leaders of soul. And of course, Curtis Mayfield, they say, is the godfather of reggae, because many Jamaican acts borrowed their mannerisms, borrowed their vocal phrasing, their timing from the Impressions. It was a trio. In Jamaica around that time in the 1960s, when the Impressions were popular in America, you had the likes of the Heptones, and the Paragons, and the Wailers, and the Melodians, and so on and so forth. Also, you know, adopting 3-part harmonies. So the Impressions were a massive influence in the 1960s in Jamaica, especially in the rocksteady period of the mid to late 1960s. So Curtis Mayfield was a big inspiration. Was probably the biggest inspiration on the Wailers at that time, you see. And so Bunny Wailer, and there you have it, you know. So the Rasta themes in the songs, the Black Heart Man album I told you about a minute ago, when Bunny Wailer was a little child, he said he would see, you know, children running away from this man. This man looked so wicked and dreadful, but it was a Rasta man. But inside the man who we were running away from was a peaceful man, was a kind man, was a humble man. And that's the Rasta man. And he said he got to a stage when he grew up, he became a Rasta himself and started writing songs about Rasta concept and so on. You know. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. There's more coming. You know, Bunny Wailer now, we're going to talk about Hugh Mundell in the coming days. We're also going to talk about the latest on Bunny Wailer's wife, you know, Sister Jean Watt, who's still missing after all these years. Well, I say after all these 2.5 years since she's been missing. So we're going to talk about this very, very soon. And just stay close to this channel, subscribe to us, share the videos, like the videos, you know, and leave your comments down below, because it helps with the algorithms of the whole of our channel, you know. And so Bunny Wailer passed away on the 2nd of March of 2021. That was last year, just over a year ago, at the tender age of 73, from a stroke, you know. And I never got the chance to say anything about it at the time, because at that time I was going through some issues myself, you know, and I had an injury, so I couldn't come on YouTube. That's why I was missing for a year, and so I was recovering here at home and so on, and then waiting to actually get back onto the swing of things. So I had to take a long break from social media. but I'm fine now. So I said, when I get the chance, when the time is right, I'll come and say what I have to say about Bunny Wailer. I remember I first heard Bunny Wailer. We had a cassette, because these were the days when cassettes were popular. We had a cassette. This would have been in the early 1980s. And the very first song I heard Bunny Wailer was, actually, it's probably 3 songs I heard. I can't remember what was the first song, but it's between these 3 songs. Battering Down Sentence, Dreamland, not the version he did for Lee Perry, but the version on the album, The Black Heart Man, and the song that he did on the Rock and Groove album, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman, that song, that was from about 1982, 1983, I heard that song. Probably the first Bunny Wailer song I ever heard. That's another thing again about Bunny Wailer. Even though he was steeped, because he came up in the ska period when the Wailers were at Studio One, and they had their first big hit in 1963 with Simmer Down. You can hear the likes of Beverly Kelso. They sound like school children, but Beverly Kelso was on there, Cherry Smith was on there, Julian Breathitt was on there, Bob Marley was on there leading the group, and then you had Bunny Wailer and Peter Tosh in the background as well. Simmer Down was a big hit for them. It was #1 hit for them in 1963, the first big hit. Then, of course, so then he went into Rocksteady. When the music changed out of ska, he was still singing in Rocksteady. Then to the tail end of the 1960s, when reggae came in, he was still singing for the Wailers then. When he's part of the Leslie Kong era, when the Wailers went to Leslie Kong and was singing songs like Caution and Adam and Eve and songs like that. He was part of the group then. Then the beautiful period when they recorded for Lee Perry, you can hear the beautiful harmonies of it. Was just him and Bunny and Bob. So him and Peter and Bob now, the 3 of them now. Cherry Smith and Junior Breathitt and Beverly Kelso was away from the group now. Junior Breathitt went to Miami in America, where he passed away sadly 20 or so years ago. And then Cherry Smith, I believe she passed away. Then Beverly Kelso's still alive, you know. And so there you have it. And he was popular in the 70s. And when he walked away from, when Bob Marley went away from when Bunny and Peter went their separate ways from Bob, he was still singing. And in the 80s now, dancehall period now, when dancehall was running the thing now, he was still popular. So Bunny Wailer, you can't keep him out of the race. Every era of the music, he was still there. In the as I said, in the dancehall period of the early 80s, with songs like I just mentioned, some of the songs in the Rock and Groove album, like Mr. Coleman, you know, Tug of War again is another one. You know, Cool Runnings was another dancehall smash. You know, Back to School Again was another smash. Electric Boogie was another. Oh, this was dancehall. He actually wrote Electric Boogie, which Marshall Griffiths had covered and brought into the American charts. It was in the Billboard charts. I believe it went high up in the Billboard charts in '83. And I remember there was a dance to it at that time. This is early '80s. There was a big dance to it. It was a big. It's over 1 million views, I think, on YouTube. It's amazing. So this is written by the great Bunny Wailer. So the man is music through and through. Absolutely music through and through. You know, from those early days when Joe Higgins was teaching them to sing, and then walking away from the Wailers, with the Wailers, singing with them, with Bunny and Peter, with Bob and Peter, singing on his own as a solo, backing other artists, writing songs for other artists, and singing on his own, and just adapting and adjusting to the various musical trends out there in reggae land. The man is just a testament, and he's just such a phenomenon. And he's a quiet wailer. They call him rightly the quiet wailer because Bob Marley was a commercial wailer who was pushed out there by the likes of Chris Blackwell. Peter Tosh was a militant wailer who spoke up regardless and was very militant and in your face. Whereas Bunny Wailer was a mystic man, was the quiet wailer. Lee Perry once said, the great producer who produced the Wailers, who I just mentioned before in this piece, Lee Perry said that with Bunny Wailer, for you to get a rise out of Bunny Wailer, you've got to rough him up a bit. With Bob and Peter, they're cool, but Bunny Wailer, because he's so quiet and so mystic and always in thinking, you've got to nudge him, you've got to someone's rough him up, you've got to someone say things to spark him, and then he'll spark into action. Because he's quiet by nature, but when it comes to music, he's a beast, he's a warrior, you see. Anyway, my brothers and sisters, that's all I have time for today. Perhaps down the line, we'll do some more about Bunny Wailer. We'll maybe give you a Bunny Wailer top 10. I'm going to do top 10s very soon. I'm going to try to do top 10s about, I can't say we're going to do every single artist, but the significant artists, the iconic artists, we'll definitely do a top 10 of their songs. Maybe in some cases, we might go outside the top 10 and do a top 15 or a top 20 or a top 14, it depends. But for Bunny Wailer, we could do a top 10. And leave your comments down below. Tell us what you think and feel. Look after yourselves. For those of you in the UK, enjoy the sunshine while we have it. And don't forget to tell your loved ones that you love them, and check on the ones you have not seen for a while. Pick up the phone, speak to them, go and visit them if you can, and just be a good Samaritan and be a good neighbor and be a good person. Thank you so much. I love you all very much, brothers and sisters. You take care of yourselves. Adios, Alva, Adarroche, Ovtip, Sila, Salam. Peace.